welcome to Box Office Brews. I'm Alex.
Hi, I'm Logan.
And we missed you!
Guys, we're back. We're finally back.
It's been a couple months hiatus. Logan, you can get into the details of why.
I went on vacation. It's September. I was in Georgia, not the one in America, the one way over there. And when I got back, I had a nasty combination of food poisoning and jet lag, and I had a cold, and a bunch of really good video games came out, and the idea of editing an hour-long video myself became really daunting, so I just didn't do it. And we took a little bit of a hiatus.
So all 10 of you who noticed, thank you for sticking around with us. I mean, the bottom line is this is always just a hobby for us. It's just a fun little thing to do on the side. We're back, and we're gonna try something new moving forward. We're gonna do shorter videos. We're gonna focus on movies that are more recent, so we're not sitting on them for like a few weeks before the review finally comes out. And we're gonna start by actually discussing the movies before we place our final score and verdict on the movie. So today we are gonna start with the brand new Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok.
Thor is back for his third and final...
Is it the third?
Third, maybe fourth time we've seen him. Probably maybe the fifth now.
You would know better than I would.
Thor is back again, and this time he means it. Thor Ragnarok is the story of the god of thunder who has been cast out of Asgard and has to fight his way back to fix a kingdom that goes awry because Kate Blanchett gets all mad about
upset. And Loki's there too, and our good green friend Mark Ruffalo. I mean, the Hulk.
So as we said, Logan and I just came back from seeing this. It's very fresh. So why don't you start us out, Logan? What are your initial thoughts?
I was really bored.
I could tell
the entire time. I don't want this to become a meme of me, but at this point it really has, because we've seen enough superhero movies together and talked about enough superhero movies where going in, I always try to stay really positive. I'm like, maybe this is the Marvel movie I'm gonna like. Maybe I'm gonna be blown away by this one. But I didn't think it was very funny or as funny as people said it was gonna be. I thought the general plot was very like cartoony and cliche superhero fodder stuff. And this is another example, like I said about Spider-Man, of like, it's a bad superhero movie that expects you to have seen better superhero movies. Didn't entertain me.
I felt bad for you when we were sitting there, because even I really liked when we talked about Spider-Man. You had mentioned that, like, you know, if you're not invested in the universe, these movies aren't for you. You know, obviously we all know Doctor Strange has a part in this movie. They made that apparent actually at the end of the actual Doctor Strange movie. There was after the credits scene, he's sitting there with Thor. Anyway, so when he shows up, I'm like, did you see Doctor Strange? No. I'm like, well then this is gonna piss you off. Like, I felt so bad. Even I was a little annoyed. I was like, they just kept throwing in more references to stuff that they expect you to have seen, and I didn't mind it when it was small, subtle stuff where you're like, well, obviously Avengers blew up the city, and Spider-Man, we knew that.
This is worse than how Spider-Man did it. Spider-Man was more, like, filled you in, at least, with some of the context.
So my initial thoughts, I did enjoy it, but I agree with you, I was bored through a lot of it. I remember just sort of sitting there like, God, this scene's just going on. And there's so many of those scenes, especially with, like, Doctor Strange and stuff, where we go down all these little paths. They were like little mini clips that could have really existed on their own, and that's what it felt like, just all sort of pieced together for one movie. I understand this is definitely more of a lighthearted. It's clearly more of a lighthearted Thor movie, just a Marvel movie in general, but it's almost as if they're like, hey, Guardians worked, and Guardians 2, we took it to the next level, and now this is even more. They're like, well, now all our movies are just going to be this. All our characters are comic relief. It doesn't matter, because what happens, because the predictable dialogue and the predictable character reactions are funny, and that's what we're there to see.
Yeah, the humor just didn't work for me. Like, I can get why some people like it, but so much of the humor is just very... It just fell flat with an awkward silence afterwards.
Yeah. There was an expected level, oh, there's slapstick, or like, oh, here's a thing that happens in real life that's kind of awkward, and let's address it. Let's talk about it.
But what's weird about the amount of humor is this movie, again, following, like, I feel like every superhero movie trilogy follows this sort of formula of first movie is origin story, second movie is introduce a villain who is as powerful, if not more powerful than your hero, third movie is you take away their power. So this movie gets rid of Thor's hammer, so you use that as a sort of portal to explore his character. So what should be a more introspective movie about Thor's character turns into this like weird, funny comedy about him and his brother. And the moments where they do delve into his character, it's so surface level stuff. Like, oh, I don't need my hammer, and like we gotta fulfill a destiny, and all that.
They keep cutting to this scene with Odin on this beach in Norway or something.
Yeah.
And it's the most fucking, like, with all the graphics in this movie that look great, by the way, why did they use the cheapest possible green screen effect for them to sit in front of a blue sky?
Yeah.
Like, you could tell they did not film that outside. And it was so distracting. It was like, you guys have a $250 million budget.
Yeah.
Did you put it all into the Hulk?
No, that's interesting because this movie, I felt this way about Spider-Man too. It was very visually bland. Just not with CGI. This was a CGI fuckfest, but
yeah, well, it's almost too much.
But anything that was just filmed was very like shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot. Here's a person talking. Here's a talking head. Like nothing about the actual way it was filmed, and like that doesn't matter at this point because people still love these.
You might have got carried away with what's going on.
It didn't help with how boring the content was for the visuals to be really, really dry.
That's the thing. This is nothing but fanboy exuberance. It's just like, what happened to Odin? What's going on? Who's this villain? What much power do they have? What's Thor's real power? Why is, like, the Hulk is there's just so much that just kind of throw at you. And I didn't care, I guess, about any of it. Like, I wish they hit, like, I think you nailed it. I think they needed to spend more time with Thor. But they kind of established right away, like, if you look at the first movie, Thor, he's hot-headed, he's overconfident, you know, and that's why he gets banished to Earth and he has to learn. He has to grow as a character. And he learns sort of this, like, this strength and decorum. But now he's back to being, I have, like, I'm a good guy with strength and decorum, but I'm also funny and sassy and super overconfident. And I feel like his character didn't really have an arc. No. Even though he lost his hammer, they kind of touched on the idea that, like, not until really later in the movie where he's like, well, you gotta figure out your true power. And you're like, was that a theme here? Because I didn't know that was part of it.
I'll put a preemptive spoiler.
Just put it up there.
Just
pretend preemptive spoiler.
I'll edit this first. That being said, they don't explore his character well, but I want to get back to the general premise of the movie. Okay. So Odin dies, and then Thor's sister appears. I forget her name already, but she's played by Kate Blanchett.
Yeah, I can never understand what it was like.
Hela.
Like it was like Hera, but it wasn't quite Hera.
Like the math rock band. So she appears, and her ultimate goal is just to do evil. Like we've used that term before. Like just do evil.
She's
Here's
just.
the villain.
She wants to rule everything.
Which is such
so you're like, well, that's the thing.
That's such a Power Rangers goal.
It's pretty much like, what are you going to do when you have it all? That's the question, is like, what are you going to do when you have it all?
Yeah.
I mean, she's got this idea that she's superior, but she's like, well, we should be ruling everything. We're better than everyone. Remember when we were better than everyone?
We've seen that so many times before. Like, this is, her character and her motive is so uninteresting that, like, that was just another layer. So all of this stuff's happening. The threat finally gets introduced maybe 30 minutes in, and I super don't care at that point.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, she pretty much dispatches with Thor and Loki right away. She's kind of left our main villain, who is this pretty much one of the most powerful entities we've seen to this point in the Marvel Extended Universe. And she's just sort of sitting in a kind of an empty Asgard, hanging out.
Yeah, just talking about, doing lots of rhetoric.
She's like, I'm mad.
Yeah, rhetoric about prophecies.
Bullshit about this lies Odin's been spreading. I'm gonna sit here.
Yeah, she waxes poetic about how strong the people of Asgard used to be, and how Odin used to be this like terrifying ruler, and then they became soft and became a society.
More of that, you know. I don't know what I wanted. That's the thing. What's the bottom line? Because I agree, there's a lot of issues with this movie, but then I'm like sitting there going like, well, what I want though?
Right.
What? Because this is where I'm gonna switch directions. Because if you listen, everyone was enjoying the movie. Everyone in the theater. We were in a packed theater. Everyone was laughing at the predictable jokes. They laughed when they were supposed to. They gasped when they were supposed to. So there's a point where I'm like, this is schlock. This is stupid, silly Marvel movie schlock. But it did everything it needed to do, and everyone walked out of the movie being like, that was fun. I had a fun ride. I don't think it was a bad movie. It was not a good movie.
Yeah.
It's almost like these Marvel movies found a really clever way to exist in their own niche.
at this point, it's really tiring to say because we have a movie review YouTube channel. So if we weren't doing this and I just went and saw the movie with some friends, I probably would have enjoyed it. On the base fact that I don't care about it, so I'm like,
Right.
I might as well just
You're like, who
go
cares?
look at the pretty colors and enjoy it. But because we're talking about it, I'm like, you can't overlook how obviously annoying and cliche and bland so much of this story is.
It was it kind of reminded me a little bit of Valerian when we were sitting halfway through it, about the idea that there's so much visual noise, but I was still bored.
Yeah.
They're like, it's like you can't dangle all the keys in front of me at the same time because I'm just like I can't choose.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Well, that was the movie starts off like not even 10 minutes in. There's a huge CGI battle between Thor and that lava
Some demon
creature.
thing. Yeah, I don't know what the hell he was.
And even on some like a lot of movies that I find boring, at least during some of the action sequences, I'll feel my heart rate go up a little bit, and I'm like, oh, like I wonder what'll happen. I know what's gonna happen, but I'm still like I'm gonna suspend my
You're a little
disbelief.
invested.
I'll enjoy this moment, and that still never happened. Like the fight with Thor and Hulk in the arena when they were on the planet, like I didn't care. Really,
That was like
not excited about
that was like the equivalent to the Hulk Buster versus Hulk in Avengers 2, which
Yeah.
is it's fan fodder.
Yeah.
Which it was fun. I enjoyed it because it was like, oh cool, we get to see. We always like to see our hero. You know, it's basically the internet talk. The internet. What would happen if Superman beat Batman?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. So it's fun to see that kind of stuff. But it's just for fun.
Yeah.
Like the overall like point of that scene was very very small.
What I thought this movie would do with Thor's newfound powers. So again, this movie's very like I don't have my hammer. What am I without my hammer? So
Right.
it's the superhero exploring who he is without his quintessential power, like Spider-Man without the suit or Tony Stark without his wealth and his suit and stuff like that. So Thor learns some electric thunder powers.
Yeah, but does he? It's kind of
But-
like, well, you always kind of had that ability.
And that's what I'm saying is
We don't know his rules.
It appeared maybe twice in the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought they would do something cool where it was like maybe a second origin story of him discovering this power and really
Right.
taking advantage of it.
Right.
But it's kind of like a flash in the pan. Like he gets angry, has a flashback of Anthony Hopkins standing in Norway, and then thunder
In
happens.
this suit, it looks so weird.
Yeah.
It was so tacky. Like,
So these moments just kind of happen, and like there's a huge like thunder explosion, and we don't like Thor doesn't really learn anything about himself in those moments. He's not like, what have I just done, or what can I control? It just kind of it solves the problem, and then they move on. Again, we're not learning anything new about him. Like he made thunder a couple times. Like it would have been really cool to see him really harness that power by the end of the movie.
and he can almost embody it a little bit more,
Yeah.
and he looked cool. He looked badass when he had
His
this
eyes
fucking
glowed
lightning and
and
stuff
stuff
going
like
on. It
that.
was really cool.
Yeah.
So I agree with that as well. It didn't really go anywhere. Like I feel like like oh they're probably just gonna give him a new hammer. Like we're gonna
Right.
get to Infinity Wars and he's just gonna be like look what I found. Like,
Yeah,
like he'll just
yeah.
have it. And you're like yeah because there's a visual aspect to these movies that they don't like to get away from. Like with Tony Stark when he finally got his shit fixed after Iron Man 3. He's still like he's still Iron Man. So you're like well, why didn't you?
Right.
What's the point of this thing? So, and he blows up his suits, but then he just comes back and he's like, yeah, I got a new suit, it's fine.
Right.
And that's fine, because they have to say the same things. So it's like, well, yeah, but Thor can be Thor without the hammer, but then we said that in this movie, but then they're going to come back in the next movie and be like, well, he does need the hammer. We kind of need to have him with we need that shot.
Yeah.
We need that trailer
It'll
shot.
have like a new thing, like it'll be able to play Blu-rays or something, like
Oh, yeah.
some
Like,
new
it'll
gadget
sing
or
to him or
ability.
something. Like-
yeah. It's like an Amazon Echo. You can order groceries.
Yeah.
Did you like the part where there was a portal in the sky and they called it the Devil's Anus, and that was the joke?
I laughed so hard the third or fourth time they said
At
it.
the Devil's Anus.
Yeah, when they said Devil's Anus, the fifth time I think it was, I finally decided it was a good.
Mark
it was
Ruffalo
funny.
was like, we got to go through the
We're
Devil's
going through the
Anus.
Devil's Anus, but that was my favorite. Actually, to be honest, I did like that one because he was so serious when he said
Yeah.
it. So I was like, all right. I didn't laugh, but I smiled a little. But the kids ate it up. The whole fucking theater went crazy. They're ha 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 ha
Something
Devil's Anus again.
About that four-letter word. It's
And I'm like,
magical.
have you not heard this word? I mean, whatever. Look, it's frustrating because I'm like, I get it, but I don't agree with you. Like, it's not funny. It would have been funny once. It was funny once. They're like, you mean the Devil's Anus? You're like, that's what you call it? And then you could have never said that again, and it would have been funny. But saying it over and over again. But this movie's full of that. What's that? There's a rock monster that's played by the remember we started the story? Who's
Yeah.
played by the New Zealand guy who runs the Flight of the Conchords. I can't remember his name.
Not Jermaine. I can't remember his name.
He's the older guy.
Yeah.
No, he's older than they are.
Yeah.
He's all squirrely. And he's called and you can tell from it was them. Oh, there was no way it wasn't him. Oh my God, please tell me it was him. It sounded just like him.
Should we look it up or leave this as a discovery for later?
we should say whether I was right or wrong in this section here. Okay. There was no way it wasn't him. Anyway, so he's essentially like one of our bigger comic reliefs, even though every character is, and so everything he said was like a joke when he did the way he said it. He's just kind of weird.
Yeah,
like,
he has that like lilted delivery where it's like, "Hey man, how's it going?"
Yeah,
like,
he's like,
I'm rock monster.
like I'm Doug said that then he died, and you're like, and I just hated it. Yeah. I hated it so much. I wanted because the audience was laughing every time, and I just kept rolling my eyes. I'm like, don't tell me an actual joke. Don't just throw characters that are weird in here. That doesn't constitute humor.
Yeah, he's like Drax in that way.
Which they overkill. They killed Drax, and when I said that in Guardians too, they overdid him. And then you're like, you took away what made him kind of fun. Like it would be funnier if Korg didn't really talk that much, and then when he did say something just completely unhelpful.
Right.
And you're like, oh, that's kind of funny.
You know what's interesting? Speaking of Korg, so he's a rock monster, right?
Was it Korg or Korg?
I thought it was like Korg.
It's a Korg.
Like the synthesizer Korg, like KORG maybe. Okay. I have no idea.
I couldn't understand any of the names in this movie. Any of the names, because they always said it, and there was like blaring sound effects going over top of it. So you're like, so we meet again. And you're like, all right, great. Hera. Her name's Hera now. I don't know.
Yeah. I really agree. That's why I call everybody in these movies, I just call them by their actual like human in real life names. So.
It's just easier.
But what's interesting is he's a rock monster, but we never actually got to see him be a rock monster.
He didn't fight once.
They gave everybody a gun in this movie. That was so bizarre.
And they're all space guns.
But not even, because one dude literally had two like rifles from Texas.
Scourge, who was played by
Carl Urban.
Thank you.
Yeah, for a movie full of superheroes.
He has AK-47s. I think that's what they are. I'm not sure. I don't know anything about guns, but they were human guns
everywhere.
So, but later on, he's like, we've already established that the Asgardians are kind of like gods, and they can't really be hurt by conventional weapons. And he's shooting the fuck out of these demon things with his AK-47s.
Yeah, these undead.
I'm kind of like, that's when I'm like, there's no rules. Yeah. Whatever, do what you want.
It also just really devolves what makes this world interesting, because you have all these superheroes and you just give them all guns. Like, there's nothing fun about that. You've turned it into just like a shoot 'em up movie at this point. Like, you're not even trying.
And so you're like, you guys are all powerful, but you're gonna shoot people instead. You know,
the only people using their powers are almost not even Thor and Loki. It's just the Hulk, and that's because that's the only thing he can do. So let's be the Hulk.
Let's talk about the Hulk. Because I feel like I was more excited in this movie to see him and to see what, because for me, I am invested in the Marvel Universe. He left after Avengers 2, he got in the Quinjet, which as far as I knew couldn't leave the planet. So he gets in the Quinjet and flies away. They don't know where he goes. He just disappears. So we've all been wondering, where did he go? What's he been up to? I was super excited when he was in the trailer. When that first trailer came out, I was actually really pumped to see him. And so I'm like, okay, I can't wait to hear what he has to say. And he didn't really. He did talk in this movie. He didn't really say anything. Yeah. He was mean and brooding and angry, but he didn't like. There was a couple moments where they sat down to really communicate, but still nothing was said. I really felt like there was obvious dialogue lines, like, "Hey Hulk, why are you still here?"
Right. Yeah.
That was never said, and I'm like, just ask him the obvious questions.
What I'm willing to bet what happened was they probably had a nice big old scene of exposition set up for Infinity War. And they were like, this won't work for this movie. Let's put it into our fodder
like
Thor
a flashback
movie.
Or something in Infinity War?
Not even a flashback, just like a piece of dialogue, I guess.
So we can explore him.
Let's cut that out of Age of Ultron, put it in the movie that we know people are going to see because they're excited for Age of Ultron. Put it in Thor. Let people just be like, okay, there's Hulk, he's back. It's all okay. The problem I have with that is they shouldn't have put him in the trailer, but I think that's what brought most people there. It's the same thing with Spider-Man in the Civil War trailer. It's like, let these reveals be a surprise to the audience. Like,
it would be
these characters are the reason people are coming back to see their movies. If they go in and they're surprised, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an executive. This movie's still going to make $1 billion.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? So. Because they obviously put him in the trailer so they could get butts in seats. But guess what? It's a Thor movie. Yeah. We're going to see it. Yeah. Like, every fucking Marvel fan is going to see this movie. And so you're right, because we kept going and like, oh, there's this champion. Who is it? Even Loki's like, I don't know who the champion is. Yeah. And we're like, we do. We all know. This sucks. Like, it was really disappointing. walking in being like, that should have been that moment where I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
Who is the champion?
We
It
should
could
have
be
reacted
anybody.
the way that Thor did, and
Yeah.
I was just like, finally, the part I've been waiting for that I saw in the
Yeah.
trailer.
You know what they didn't reveal in the trailer is that Matt Damon had a cameo in this movie. They hid that, but they didn't hide the fact that fucking.
That was like people just okay. So I just liked that every time they cut to him, the audience just laughed because
Yeah,
it
like,
was
"Oh,
him.
it's Matt Damon."
It's Matt Damon. It's
Yeah.
funny. It's funny. It was funny. I did.
That was one of the few moments.
Because even
where
they
I
looked
laughed.
annoyed, like we're in this fucking movie now.
Yeah.
Like we're in the universe. We made it to the Marvel universe.
Matt Damon is canon in Marvel now, so that's an interesting. Somebody online with a theory tree of
He'll be
everybody
a
who's-
villain, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's that theater guy who turned into this ultimate theater villain. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum was funny, just like every
That's
other character.
the only role he plays is being like.
He was almost too goofy.
He
It was a
was
little weird.
himself. He was lilted delivery, like, oh hey, I'm Jeff Goldblum.
So,
Go
but here's
hunt
my
these
question
guys
then.
down.
Here's my question to you, because I felt like an asshole watching this, where I was just like rolling my eyes, and I'm like, why can't I just? Am I broken? Am I trying too hard to hate this? Like, I didn't hate it, but like, I didn't enjoy. I was like,
I
fuck
think-
you, Jeff
no.
Goldblum. Why is this so funny?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it wrong for
Well,
me to
no.
think that anyone should take anything in this a little bit seriously? He should have been the only comic
I
relief.
think it's because the movie doesn't know what it wants to be. Because
So I'm confused. Is that what it is?
Because it's so saturated in this world of superhero movies. I think the only thing at this point that makes superhero movies funny and interesting now is subverting a lot of the stereotypes about superhero movies. Like there was one moment where Hulk, he's in Mark Ruffalo form, and he's about to go fight.
Mark Ruffalo form, I love
He's
it.
in Mark Ruffalo form, and he's about to go fight, and Tessa doesn't know that Mark Ruffalo is Hulk. So he's like, oh, you're about to find out who I am. So he leaps from this ship that's like 1,000,000 feet in the air. And this moment was kind of funny,
That was
because
very
you
funny.
expect this like superhero landing with Hulk, except Mark Ruffalo's limp human body just smacks
He
him
dies.
to the ground.
He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
his eyes open. There's a blood stain.
Yeah.
He's dead, and you're like.
Yeah, and
Oh my
that
God.
was kind of funny, but I think that's kind of the only thing you can do in these movies now, because there are so many expectations. Unless you're constantly subverting those expectations,
expectedly unexpected.
and that's why Deadpool was funny. But this is Thor. Like,
Yeah.
it felt so out of place.
So
in this
stop
movie.
ham-fisting it.
Yeah.
And give me something like she
It's-
should have been. Because she was always so sassy and
Yeah.
like she should have been terrifying.
Yeah, and I am more and more after every Marvel movie I'm seeing. I'm starting to see the decline
Mm-hmm.
of these movies, because we've seen so many that this feels like a fan script.
It does.
Like somebody. I mean, I'm sure it was a comic book. I'm sure this story was in the comics at some point. I don't
Whatever.
fucking know.
I don't know.
I didn't read them, but this felt like a fan script. I mean, again, I'm reiterating at this point, but these insert movies like Spider-Man and this movie and pretty much everything else that came out this year except for Logan, these are just stepping stones towards the Avengers movie. Like, it's just to get people, to give them a little pieces of bread to be like, hold on, like the main course is coming out soon.
We're getting to the
here's
main
the
event.
Thor dish. You had Spider-Man a couple months ago. Here's Thor. Just be patient.
As long as you have your favorite, as long as you have your favorite
Yeah.
characters in there,
Yeah.
and there's a cool fights, because the fights are great, the choreography is great, the CG
Yeah.
is great, like all the stuff that's supposed to be good is good. Can't harm it for that. I can't fault it for that.
Except for all the things that make Marvel and superheroes interesting.
Well, make a story interesting.
Yeah.
Because the story wasn't interesting at all. But to be fair, none of the Thor stories have been good.
I guess
I
on
didn't-
that note, should we?
We're gonna finish our beers and make a final verdict.
Yeah.
Cheers.
It's good to be back.
Well, thanks for watching. Sorry if this infuriates some of you. I still want to say, like, I enjoyed it to a degree, but
I think
know,
at some
I'm talking
point
about-
fans should take some credibility and really look inside themselves and inside this cinematic universe and just draw a line at some point. Like, just give yourself some standards,
Yeah.
because this was bullshit in my opinion. Don't just spend your money on this shit and be like, it was great because Hulk talked and we really want to see that. I don't know. I'm just getting
Anyway,
so
we're moving
frustrated
on.
with this. Yeah. moving on.
So
that was Thor Ragnarok.
So thanks for sticking with us for our new format. We're really excited about this. So hopefully we'll be able to get more videos out to you. And I'm excited about. There's a lot of cool movies coming up in November, December.
Yeah.
What do we got? First,
awesome.
right off the bat, we've got Murder in the Orient Express comes out next week. I'm really excited about that.
Directed by Kenneth Branagh. He's really good at his, well, not good, but he's really fond of doing adaptations of novels and literature that is often overlooked. So that could be interesting. Really big cast. I'm personally extremely excited for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri by Martin McDonough. He's the guy that directed In Bruges and 7 Psychopaths. And In Bruges is one of my favorite movies ever. Very, very excited about that
And
movie.
the trailer looks awesome. I'm excited for it too. We've got the new Pixar movie Coco comes out at the end of the month. I don't know if we might talk about it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna go see it. I'm excited for it. Pixar movies are usually pretty great.
Yeah. What else is coming out? I feel like those are the ones that immediately.
There's a big one that I've honestly forgotten about, and I don't even want to see it. But I feel like we're gonna have to see it.
Is this
the Justice League?
Oh right, Justice League.
I forgot it until you mentioned it in the review.
Yeah, I'm so tired of talking about superhero movies, but unfortunately.
No, but I'm annoyed. We didn't have the channel when Batman vs Superman came out. I had so much to talk about for that one.
So maybe we'll talk
this is
about
our
Justice
chance.
League,
This is their chance to be like, well, is it good or bad or just awful?
Yeah.
So.
Especially how much I hated Wonder Woman. It'll be interesting to go see.
Exactly.
See
So it'll be fun. So thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe. And
we'll see you on the next adventure.
What's that?
This review, realistically, is going to be at least 30 minutes. So, and if we have to finish this,
we may have to stop
and
drink some more of it.